Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
it's working.
Okay.
We're live now.
There we go.
Oh, the stream delay is weird. I can't watch it as weird. Can I minimize this? Because this is just like
everybody pause that stuff.
high player. Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay.
Stream delay's too much.
Okay, I will keep an eye on the chat then.
Okay.
Well, chat's one thing. The watching my face move around from side to side is.
But yeah, no, I'll keep an eye on the Twitter and the Twitch chat during the stream.
Okay, let's go ahead and get. Oh, look at that! Oh, actually, that looks pretty sweet for. Yeah. Look how clean that is.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that actually is really nice.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So why don't we go ahead and start by doing the clappy?
Does anyone have any questions?
Well, first we
on
all
what
have
a
to
trap
hit.
is?
Oh my god! I mean, why don't we actually have the discussion?
Or a puzzle.
Yeah. We can define it as the beginning thing, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Well, we should all hit record over on Audacity.
Not just yet. Hold on. Everybody have time that is up so we can go ahead and get this party started.
I am testing my microphone to see if it works.
Okay.
It does. So yeah, I have Audacity up and time.is up.
Oh, hold on. I lost it. We lost a tab. There we go. So you're right. I don't need to see everybody's faces twice. Okay. So as Eric was talking about, anything that we want to discuss prior about traps? I think. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Grant. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I think we're good to jump into it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So everybody has pants on, pants check really quickly. Obviously, we're on video. Nobody's tubing around, I hope. Let's just...
I don't, but the camera's not going to pan down.
You say that, and it accidentally... Little did you know, people can see in the reflection of your display face that there is a...
We'll only get like
John's bare ass for the world to see. Yeah.
My shining white bare ass.
Oh my god.
DJ Wheat will protect us.
It's fine. This is my my plan to get us banned from Twitch.
Lol. Okay.
Jesus.
Thank you, Kevin. Lol.
Yeah. I can't say that anymore apparently because it's what is it? I don't know who was the catalyst, either you or me. Yeah, you mentioned Megan. I was like, oh my god, saying lol. LOL is worse, I think. And then laugh out loud is probably the king of Cringetopia. But all right. So we don't have anything else to discuss, right?
Puzzles and traps, is like there a question to it, or are we just talking about puzzles and traps?
No, we'll see how that goes. We'll just kind of shoot the shit. I think we'll just start by talking about maybe a definition of like what we think like a puzzle and trap necessarily is.
I'd like to be done by 1. Is there a time limit that we're looking to go with this, or go until we're done talking and then are we trying to get 20 minutes? Okay, so we are trying to get a second one in there.
I don't think we will. I don't think we have time to kind of switch between the two.
Yeah, just one episode today.
That works.
Yeah. Okay. So pull up time.is and let's do the clap. All right. So why don't everybody have up? I'm recording.
I am recording.
Recording.
All right, Audacity. All right, and let's go ahead and clap on 55. I'm just kidding. Let's go ahead and clap on 7. And then let's clap on 15. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. So hello, and you're listening or watching the Zone of Hot Truth, a weekly show where 4 DMs talk about their experiences, opinions, and maybe hot takes. We'll find out in some amount of time. I'm Kevin.
I'm Eric. Hi, Twitch.
Yeah.
I'm John, live from the underground.
I'm just great this week. I got nothing.
All right, we're in the empty abyss of saying hello to ourselves currently. So our topic for today. So we're not actually going to have a focus question like we would normally do, but we are talking about traps and puzzles and D&D. So why don't we go ahead and just start with like what is kind of a definition of like a typical trap? Like what is that supposed to be in D&D, and we can go from there.
Scythe swings take 1d6 damage.
So
I mean, I think
there's an element of
is-
surprise.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
That's like the most basic definition of them. I'm gonna like steal a Dale Kingsmill thing here, but they're a different type of lock. They are a thing that if you know it's there, you can avoid it. If you do not know it's there, it is meant to stop you or impede your progress.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another
I like that.
possible definition, there's something that's meant to consume resources from the players, whether that be hit die, healing potions, spells, or just time.
Yeah, I like that. I think
It's
that's
meant to
a key
be a
thing.
resource drain on the players. But again, you have to remember time is one of those resources, because not every puzzle or trap is always going to get a spell slot or hit die or HP off of them.
I like that. That's like between Eric's bullshit answer and and Grant's serious answer. We have the the narrative purpose of a trap and the mechanical purpose of a trap.
Surprise would be the critical thing I would say. You step on a stone and the scythe swings. Some element of surprise. You're trapped.
So in that element though, so like there's like I'm thinking of the Indiana Jones or other kind of fantasy type things where you can see, for example, like or Galaxy Quest, right, where there's like a smashing things coming down at a specific timing. There's something in front of you that you can see that is not necessarily a surprise. I guess that would fall into Grant's definition of like it's some sort of resource consumption to figure out what's going on. But does that still count as a trap necessarily, or is that just kind of like, is a trap and an obstacle kind of the same thing, or does the trap have to be something where there is surprise involved? Is my kind of question that I'm thinking about right now.
I think all traps are obstacles, not all obstacles are traps.
Yeah, I think once surprise is removed, I think you start to move across the line into puzzle or riddle territory. Because once it's a known factor and it's not something jumping out of the player, I think that's where it transitions from trap to riddle or puzzle. Yeah.
Okay, I like that, because I think that actually ties into kind of what we're going to be talking about as well with puzzles and things. So the element of surprise is something that is necessary. We agree on for traps. I almost said puzzles, and then I corrected myself, and then great
surprise puzzle.
Well done, Kevin. Okay. So what are some examples of some good traps that are out there, or ones that are amenable to you? I guess I think everybody has their own style of trap they may like to employ in their games.
I love those crickets.
Well, on a real
we're waiting.
Well, on a real basic level, you got the classic pitfall traps, blow dart traps, spike pit traps. Like those are kind of the classic ones. The scythe is another good example. Whether or not those are good is another question. Those are the common examples. I think they're a bit dull though. I think a good trap should be more than just an arrow fires from the wall, you take 1d6 like poison damage. There should be some sort of more substantial or meaty consequence, I think, instead of just you take a d6 of damage. Like maybe it causes the path you're currently going through in the dungeon to collapse. You now need to find an alternate route. Maybe it, on top of dealing damage, some magical thing goes off which blocks all non-magical light sources. You now have to start using spells if you want to actually have any sort of vision in here, assuming the entire party doesn't already have dark vision. But that's a can of worms.
Okay, so the reductionist way I was thinking about this was like, okay, so you want the trap to do enough to meaningfully piss off the players.
Yeah.
Yes. So again, the thing that I like to think about it as from a narrative stance is that things are in your dungeon, right? Like the dungeon is serving a purpose. It was like either meant to keep somebody out of something, but allow some people in, because if you never needed to go in there, why would there even be a path at all? So there has to be a way around it. It has to be an obstacle, like something keeping you out. So I tend to like traps that like drop you into a different area. Traps that the door
shooters. I kind of like that. Okay.
The man traps, they're called in like modern security, where like the doors close in front and behind you, and now find your way out because there's something bad happening to you. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to just straight the typical blow dart trap that Grant was talking about.
Because those are just boring. The blow dart things. It's just like, oh no, I'll use a hit die. I'll drink a health potion. They have their place. Like those types of traps they serve their purpose, which is to like weaken your players a bit. But they shouldn't be the only types of traps you use. And
typically, it's like you get them once. Like Eric was talking about, the surprise of it. Like once you know that this dungeon has traps, then your party is going after every single door. All right, I'm stopping to look for traps.
I think,
and then after that, you're not hitting anything.
We'll get that in
phrase DMs enjoy.
Yeah, I think we'll get in that in a second. One thing I want to mention with traps is gelatinous cubes of any sort, or just like prime like usage.
Yeah.
It's very easy to have a pitfall trap and then a gelatinous cube falls on top of them, and that person's in a very bad position. I think one thing that traps do that are particularly poor is when the blow dart's doing 1d6, or even a door slam on both exits, entrance and exit, is there's no actual consequences. If the dungeon creator spent all that time and all that energy to not only build the trap but stock the trap, treat it as like some sort of renewable resource, the consequences for setting it off should be very dire. It should not be a level 1 person just takes the arrow and is like, okay, well, that's because then the traps has served no function.
It was just meant to keep out, exactly. Kind of a thing.
And then it seems like we're just going through the D&D checklist. Every dungeon has to have a trap, a puzzle, a combat encounter, a social encounter, and a boss fight. And it feels like then we're just checking this.
Really quickly before I get the grant, I just want to keep this off my mind. So this is something, what you described is something that Chris McDowell, the creator of Into the Odd and Electric Bastionland, has described as the traps have to do something that provides the players with an interesting choice afterwards, right? Like damage, things that just spend resources, I think, don't really give you a significant choice versus things Eric mentioned where there's suddenly you see your teammate swimming in molasses at the bottom of a thing because he's in a gelatinous cube. What do you do about that? Also, skeletons are coming through the doors. Like, what do we do? Do you see your friend about to slowly turn into goo within there, and you have to figure out what to do. That's an interesting. I think the dire consequences is one thing, but having it be an actually interesting thing, right? Is something that's key. Grant, go ahead. I just wanted to put that in.
No, that's a good point. Yeah. But going off of the other thing John and Eric mentioned as well, which is why did the creator put this there? Like, why is this obstacle? Why is this trap there? I think you should think about the context behind the dungeon or the place where the trap is. So, like, if this is an old ruin that goblins have just taken over, that's where it might make more sense to have simpler traps, like the classical you tripwire, a log comes flying down and just pummels someone and just sends them flying into a wall. Like, that's a simple, crude trap. There's not much complexity there, but it makes sense within the context of goblins have set up camp in these ruins. Whereas if you're exploring an old dungeon where an archmage used to set up, that's where like the pitfall gelatinous cube trap examples that you and Kevin just went over, though that's like much more thematically appropriate, and the level of consequence for failing makes sense with the dungeon. Whereas again, the archmage from years ago, he's not gonna have blow dart. He's not gonna have like a blow dart trap. That makes no sense.
The first man has made his for the first dungeon.
I don't know why I said 2 million, but like, really, you should think about the context of like who made the dungeon, what types of things should be there.
The thing that came to mind when you said like the log coming down was like, okay, I imagine a trap where like there's a rune on the end of the logs, and when it slaps into somebody, it teleports them outside the dungeon.
That's
and
good.
that's how you keep them out, and then it resets. So you have to figure out how to like deal with that because it's constantly going to slap somebody.
That's actually a really good trap.
Spoilers for fuck, I forget the name of the dungeon. It's back at the Yawning Portal. It's the last one in the Yawning Portal book.
Tomb of Horrors.
Tomb of Horrors.
Yes.
Spoilers for Tomb of Horrors approaching, but that is a reoccurring thing of Tomb of Horrors. It is you touch a thing and the trap is you are teleported outside of the dungeon naked.
Oh, okay.
You lose all your items.
You're like, all right, my shit. I'm getting my shit back. This is important.
I want to highlight. John mentioned spotting a trap with a perception roll, or
here we go.
I'm gonna check. I want to check this door. I want to check this door. That stuff sucks. It sucks as a player hearing this over and over again. It sucks as a DM having to answer, because it puts the DM in a weird position of you either have to have the player roll every single time, whether there's a trap or not, because there needs to be consistency, or you need to tell the player there's no trap here. There's no trap here. Oh, now you need to roll. And that signifies there's a trap there. And then when they roll low, because they always will, in that situation, they'll always roll low. Then there's the awkwardness of everybody at the table knows there's a trap there. And it takes a lot of collective willpower to be the person to say, yep, I'll step forward and set off some trap. And then it's just every time. I
step on the loosest tile.
Yes. Yes. And
I look for
it slows the game down considerably. And Tony, if the defense against that is use passives, then I'm just going to lose it, because passives are even more boring.
Okay, so I'll tell you how I do it. Because I dealt with the I would like to check the door for traps. I would like to check this hallway for traps, and like having to stop and do that at every increment. And it drove me fucking nuts. So how I do it is essentially you go until the situation has changed. So if they are progressing down a hallway and there is like 3 doors along the way, I say, you're going to stop and check each one of them for traps and like open them to see if there's anything inside. Give me 1 flat investigation check, and we are going to use that check until something changes. Either you are attacked by monsters, or that check wasn't enough and you trigger the trap, or there was a trap and you found it. So it is just a one-time roll, and then sometimes that one roll is enough for the whole dungeon. And
I like that. Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes I'm having them make like 4 rolls, but like across the scale of a whole dungeon, that's not a lot, I don't think.
Can I offer a better solution?
You're just gonna say don't just have them see them?
Just have them see them.
Then why are they there?
Because it's not necessarily.
If they see them, then there is no
surprise. It's not saying, okay, at this door there's a scythe taped to the end of it. Go forth, my child. Like, that's not the answer.
Wanda Fireballs is pointing to
but if you see
what Eric's
you say, okay, this door has a rune on it.
Yeah.
And they don't know what the rune is. There's no make an investigation roll, make an arcana roll type stuff that just slows the game down and basically turns it into a game of, do they know or do they not know? Make them think, okay, so the doorknob is trapped. How can we get this door open without touching that doorknob? Maybe we
use that a puzzle.
Then we start getting into a different way of solving the trap. That's interesting. Or you're like, okay, I've got no idea. I'm just gonna put my hand on the doorknob and let's just make this worth it.
A thing that I want to point out is that by your own definition of a trap requiring surprise, you are recommending getting rid of traps in favor of obstacles.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, hold on, really quickly, because I think for that.
I am.
For Eric, you don't know what the consequence of the thing is. You know it's there, but you don't. I think that's where the surprise might be.
I do think you should also get rid of traps for obstacles.
He's not telling them what the trap is. He's just saying something is off about this door. That's all he's telling them. Like, for all they know, they touch the door and like a pit opens up, scythe comes flying in, gelatinous cubes drop down. Like, it could be anything. You have no idea what's going to happen. You just know something might happen.
In the middle of the hallway, you see 2 greaves with 2 bones sticking out of them, and they are burnt to cinders. This upright in the middle of a hallway.
Yeah, that's interesting
What do you
because it
do?
could be so many things.
Yeah,
I think that's far more interesting
doing his,
than
feeding phase.
rolling to investigate, rolling to arcane it, rolling to whatever. And it turns into a game of almost like a Mother May I type thing of, oh nope, you didn't hit the magic number. Now you must, let's see what happens. And then that always leads the player to satisfaction. Almost always.
Well, I think both of your ideas are good. I think Eric's approach and John's approach are good because of one thing. There's consistency behind it. It kind of solves the problem Eric brought up of, when do I ask for rolls? Oh, if I don't ask for a roll, they're going to know there's no trap. And then if I suddenly ask for one, they're going to know something's there. But both of your solutions kind of avoid that because there's consistency behind it. Eric doesn't ask for rolls. He just always will say, you notice X object standing out as being weird. So the players know, okay, we need to investigate this, spend time with this. John, the way you do it, you ask them to like roll a dice until the game state changes. That's the roll they use for like all the doors, everything they're checking. There's consistency there. So there's no issue of, oh, well, he asked me to make a roll out of the blue. That means there's definitely a trap, which I think that's important. Whatever system you come up with for your players going through a dungeon, you need to stick with it to avoid things standing out as, oh, well, now he's asking for a roll. That means something's there.
Why not make things more just interactive and just wait for the right question instead of waiting for I roll for traps? So something like, okay, do I notice anything about the walls? Like, is there handprints or something on there? And then if they they find the right answer to that question, like, yeah, you notice that there is actually a huge dried bloody handprint on the right wall or something like that. Or
I think those are like the same thing. You're asking the same question in different ways. One's asking it more narratively, and one's asking it more mechanically.
One seems like a skip, and the other seems like they're interacting with the environment. I think is the key distinction I want to make there.
You are correct. The other way, it does require you to be describing more of the environment
until they ask.
Yeah, but then, I'm looking around. Do I not just see it?
Be more specific.
Then I'm spending 5 minutes describing every hallway that you walk down. That's most of which are empty.
That is true. You could think that might be a case.
Also, I would like to thank Eric. Sorry, I had this thought before.
Yeah.
I want to thank Eric for allowing his party to always have a level 2 find traps up at all times. We appreciate that.
Are you talking about 5e and how traps are even more garbage in that system? Yeah, get out of here with that, because you might as well say...
Thank you for trivializing the find traps feature of Thief and giving it to all parties. Now continue. Kevin.
Find trap feature of what? What class gets find? What class gets find trap?
We're in order, right? And I'm just gonna I wish I could put my hand through the bottom of the screen and just like throttle it. No, the only thing I was gonna say, you don't have to describe everything necessarily. Okay, do we notice anything different, weird about this room? No, we don't notice anything different. You can lump descriptions all together for certain things. If they ask something, you're like, okay, there's an altar in the middle of the room when you look inside. Do I notice any holes in the ceiling or anything like that? You notice that there's holes sticking out of the walls. There are other things there. Like if they ask an appropriate question, right, then you can sprinkle in the correct description. Otherwise, you guys notice anything? Do I notice anything about the walls or the floor? No, they're stone from what you can tell.
Also, and some of you may disagree with this, like one of the jobs of being the DM is just to sometimes offer up the things that would be like obviously stand out when you are going through your description. So the players go into a room. The altar is a great example of what Kevin said. Don't wait for your players to say, do I notice anything strange? If there's an altar in the room, that's going to stand out, and you could have a perception of 1, and you're going to see the altar in the middle of the room. Like, there are certain things that you should just give your players when you are describing rooms, hallways, passages and large openings in caves. Like that is part of your job as the DM.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you can't rely on your players to always ask the appropriate question. And
Can
if
I-
you're always and only giving out information after the right question has been given, there's a lot of stuff you're never even going to tell your players, and they'll never end up getting because
I don't
think
so. Yeah.
Can I highlight, by the way,
one of a skill is knowing when to give information out and when
Yes, I agree with
wait
that.
That's true.
to
Yeah.
be asked.
But I think like that's a muscle that I think you would want your players to develop necessarily. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
because that's like a season adventure, right? They go, hold on, let me go into each room, right? And then they get banged by everything versus going like, all right, can I look above the door? Do I notice anything like hanging off it? No, ceiling looks fine, floors look fine for what you can tell. You know, like you do notice that at the back of the room there are nude replicas of yourself that are mimicking your movements. What do you do? Anyway.
Mindtrap's
Nix
the
that
worst
last
spell
bit.
to
I just
do,
thought it was
by the
funny.
I do think that is more interesting than just there. You walk into the room and you see a trap in front of you.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Reducing it to that is the same level of reducing.
Yeah.
You walk into a room, you rolled a 2, good luck. So
I think
there
that's
is a level of
little unfair
reduction
to
there.
Eric's point.
I'm not saying there's a trap in front of you. I'm saying there's a rune
You're
on the
you're saying
doorknob.
there's a thing that looks different, which is
Yes.
means
Yeah,
which
there's
means
a thing
a
that looks
trap,
different.
which means a trap.
Not
What is that?
always.
And not always.
Okay. We're at
We
a
should
kind
switch
of
the puzzles. We should switch the puzzles.
That's what I was going to say. We're at a key
Yeah, we
moment. Well, here's what I'll say. Do we want to actually talk about puzzles, or do you want to? It sounds like we still have a lot of things to say about traps as well.
I think puzzles should
Yeah.
be its own episode at this point.
Yeah.
We're 20 minutes into this, and I
will
think
say-
at this point,
Traps and puzzles do suffer from the same problem, which is you have to write them for a 3-year-old. If you write them for any level of intelligence higher than a 3-year-old, you are absolutely going to either TPK or the puzzle trap is going to go unsolved.
Okay.
Because you have no way of guaranteeing your party is going to think the exact same way you do, and unless they do, what is clear as day to yourself, it'll never even cross their mind, and that doesn't mean they're dumb or that you wrote a bad puzzle. It just means you have to be willing to accept potential
hold the thought.
like alternate answers.
Hold the thought. Do we want to split this out? Because yes they do share the same problem, but I think they are like two very different.
Widely different. Yeah. Like they share similar blood, or we can talk about this in the next episode.
Yeah,
and
let's
talk about some similarities. I think we should keep it as its own thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, but in regards to really quickly, because I'm gonna forget this probably for the next time. In regards to what Eric was saying, so there's actually like this is kind of like a psychological experiment where if you scramble a word that's very simple, right? It takes people considerably longer and with a kind of considerably more effort than they would have thought once that they see the solved solution. Right. So I think that's something to keep in mind. Like, but I think Grant was kind of touching on this, where since you know the solution, it seems like this should be a very easy thing, right? But because, especially in D&D, where so many other variables, like figuring out what the fuck the trap is doing necessarily, right, might be something that is very difficult because they have like all this bump information, and also they don't have all the pieces aligned, right, to indicate like this is the correct solution, right?
I would say one thing, as far as you mentioned solution, so I'll highlight this. If you put a trap in, I think there are 2 things you should prep with. The first is they activate the trap and it goes off, which should obviously there should be a bad effect, obviously. There should be a minor positive. Minor.
Interesting.
Because I think it should create something interesting. It should change.
Interesting, yes.
There should be a monster there or something, and killing this monster, it has something on it. It doesn't need to be anything crazy, but there should be something tiny.
Okay.
If you are able to successfully defeat the trap, so the trap never goes off, the major positive is you avoid the trap. But there should always be a minor consequence that goes along with that. The road should not be just, I've defeated the trap and thus content has been completely avoided and the game goes on. And you shouldn't have it to where it's just, the trap was set off, I've gotten smashed in the face. The game goes on. You mentioned interesting choices should be developed from it, and I think interesting choices should be built in whether the trap is successfully set off or not. And I think the reason is it impacts the way DMs approach traps. Because DMs will write a trap and thinking this trap has to go off. Because if it goes off, there's something interesting that happens.
Yeah.
And by having something interesting either way, you kind of combat your own interest in having interesting things happen.
Yeah, I actually really like that idea. Well, so
the 5e mindset.
I'm neutral on this. I'm neutral on this idea.
No, so like the minor positive, yeah, like I like that because it doesn't have to be anything huge. Like you said, it could be something small. Like, I don't know, you're able to recover something like a vial of poison from because the monster they fight is poisonous and there's a rogue. Oh yay, I can now put poison on like my dagger or whatever. I don't know.
That's just the first thing.
That's just the first thing that came to my head. I'm not saying that's the perfect go-to example.
There was a very visceral reaction of
but
like absorb
because it could be something as small as that. Because fuck, the trap went off. We took a bunch of damage. This took up a ton of time. But like the player who got to harvest the bit from the monster and then the other player who gets to use that thing in the next combat encounter, that's gonna feel good. And the party collectively as a whole is probably gonna be like, that sucks, but we got something out of it. Like it's more interesting, which is the whole point that Eric's trying to get across.
You want your players to want to set off traps. You don't want them to just want to just uber safe at all times because that's part of the game. It'd be like if
that's so counterintuitive.
Okay. I disagree with that.
I disagree with that.
I don't think you should want. I don't think you should want your players to want to set off all the traps. I think your goal is when a trap gets set off, they shouldn't hate it or feel like, oh shit, like you want it to be not all bad and them to realize it's not going to be all bad. But I don't think you want them to hit every trap because at that point you might as well just throw the encounter at them.
I didn't say every. I definitely didn't say every.
Okay.
It'd be like playing 5e.
The semantics.
Yeah. But still.
Here's all I'll say. Like, I think it's interesting. I when I think about it, treating traps like a slot machine necessarily, right? Of like maybe they'll get something good out of it is actually an interesting thought. So, like, again, this is kind of touching on another kind of psychological thing where there's a more powerful drive for the reward if you don't know when it's coming, right? So, like, if they get a good thing with one trap, that's awesome, right? Because then they'll try and poke at things, they can take it apart or do something to see if there's something good or not, right? So I like that. I don't know if it should be every trap. I think every trap should have an interesting choice, and then maybe some traps should have something good that comes out of it. That's an interesting idea in itself, because that's a way to kind of maybe get lore and, like you said, some interesting bit of information out to them that is rewarding, or monster poison as well.
Traps are, for better or worse, traps are part of the D&D history and D&D gameplay. You want, it's part of the D&D experience of having traps go off. It would be like playing 5e, which is a combat simulator, and not having any combat. Why are you doing that? It's very
similar. So tired, Eric.
Huh?
Why do you look so tired? Why do you look so tired when you talk about 5e? And
because he's DM'd 5,000 hours of it and hated every. Well, not every.
No,
like about 3,000 of them.
Most likely.
Yeah, it sounds like my relationship with Dota. All right, let's go into our final thoughts. What do we want to kind of end on here? So usually, if you're listening to the podcast and you're watching us, probably going to do the same thing. Final thoughts in less than a tweet about traps and not puzzles. We'll cover that next time.
Interesting choices. You want to have traps. You want to combat against your natural instinct to just make the trap go off. The way of doing that is having both a interesting outcome. The trap goes off, and an interesting outcome if they avoid the trap.
Chance.
That way, you fight your own worst enemy.
I think that you should treat traps as a complete encounter. It should be a thing that if they don't find it, it's a thing an obstacle that they have to overcome. If they do find it, it's still a lighter obstacle that they have to overcome. There's just not a negative penalty associated with it.
I think consistency is really important. Consistency in how you present these obstacles to your players, or ask them to search for it, to avoid some of the DM fiat or Deus Ex Machina aspects that can sometimes seep into the games, as well as remembering that time is also something that traps can take away from your players as like a penalty cost. It's not always damage, HP, or spell slots. Time as a resource is also something that's perfectly acceptable for the event to trigger.
Okay, so I guess the last thing I'll leave you with, people should check out MacLeod, because what it does is you actually just put the obstacle in front of the player, right? And you have a collection of those, and this is the DM's phase, right, where the players can freely interact with the thing, right, and figure out what to do. Right. And then they have kind of like a freeform phase afterwards for like rest and rewards and stuff like that. And I think that's something interesting that people should look at as well, because it'll teach you how to write encounters instead of just waiting for him to spring. All right. So you can go ahead and reach us here on Twitch, right? And I think you can send messages. I'm not familiar with this platform at all. This will probably be up on YouTube as well. And you can also send a tweet our way on the Zone of Hot Truth Twitter page, which I believe should be linked somewhere down below. Last thing I'll leave you with is thank you for listening, and keep rolling those dice. Thank you. All right, goodbye, John.
I got 10 minutes.
Bye.
We stopped recording, right? We can just shoot the shit here, I guess, for a little bit until you leave.
Yeah, everyone kill the recordings.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that.
Else. Oh, yeah, Are we still alive?
Yeah,
we are.
Okay. Yeah. So, what was I going to say? I as soon as we were going 15 minutes in, I was like, yeah, we could probably just talk about. There's more to say about traps.
I opened up the Audacity about like 20 minutes in, and we were still talking about traps. And I was like, there's no way we're talking about puzzles.
It's funny because all of us had the same like time point. Like as soon as Eric started mentioning puzzles, like I was about to say something, and then John, you were looking at it too. It's like, all right, everybody has the same idea now. Like either we transition or we just stick with
I think they're so linked, unfortunately. That is,
yeah, they are. They're different though, and construction I think is the key thing. Yeah.
They serve the same function, and I think they have similar conversations, but
they can be combined.
Because
they should be combined. Like logically, this should be like a podcast one week, and then the next one is the podcast, the next podcast.
I meant literally, you do the wizard puts Sudoku in front of their players, and if they guess the wrong number, spear comes out of the square, and it's instant death.
Because I think every trap could be a puzzle almost, but it doesn't go the other way. So like they are intertwined. Because once you realize that something's there, it literally just becomes a puzzle or a riddle. Because it's just like, oh yeah, we found a pressure plate. Then it becomes, how do we disarm it? And then at that point, it's a puzzle.
None of us talked about click roll. I think Eric, you touched on it for a second, but we didn't talk about it in its entirety because I think that's the click roll
from King's Mill, where if you're walking and like they trigger a trap, like unknowingly, she'll just say click.
Contrarian Eric.
She'll just say click. And then in that moment, if the players notice, they get like a half second to like actually say, oh wait, I hear the click and I do X. And if they say it quickly enough, she'll take that into consideration before or as the trap is going off. And I like that rule.
I heard it differently, which is you hear the click and then the player decides what they're going to do. Are they jumping? Are they laying flat? Are they taking a step back? Are they taking a step forward?
And
then
casting a spell.
No spell. It's just your body's movement. You have half a second to react. How are you reacting?
Oh, that's different. I've heard it more similar to Grant. But
okay. I've never heard that one.
There might be a spectrum with this, and this is probably an idea that's been typed up a few times.
So if you step back and it was a pit trap right in front of you, you're fine. If you lay flat on the ground and it's a pit trap, you're going down, obviously. There's no rolls.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Oh no,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kingsmill
You jump,
took
which is good if it's like an arrow like type thing. Again, if it's a pit trap, though, you're screwed. If you take a step forward and the pit trap's in front of you, not behind you.
Yeah, because I think Kingsmill took this from somewhere else. This is where I heard it, so that might be why me and you have heard something different from Eric, is because I don't think Kingsmill came up with it. So one of the sources is different from the other.
I forget where I heard it initially. I don't know if it was something on Reddit or a video.
Either
a
way,
long time ago.
Either way, I like the click rule.
Yeah.
I kind of forgot about that.
It goes into the player choice becomes a thing. Because I think the through line I think that everybody agreed on was just going, you step on a thing, you take 1d6 damage. It's kind of like the worst possible kind of trap that is out there.
Yeah.
It's not interesting. It just makes a player angry, right? There's no choice involved, right? Yeah.
Oh, I'm assuming we're just saving this episode as traps, though.
Traps. Oh, I just have trap. What?
Traps,
okay,
wiki face.
That's fine.
Okay.
How do we feel about the recording, and how did we feel about the format?
I like it. By the way, we're still live, just to remind everyone.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or do
John
we
doesn't listen very often.
No, I thought we said we were stopping. Oh, we said stopping recording, not stopping.
Yeah, because the
stopping...
recording we're doing because we'll still upload it to Anchor.
Okay.
So at some point we have to stop the recording just for file size purposes.
Yeah.
I thought that we were. I thought that those were the same recordings. Excuse me. I was listening.
No, you weren't.
I made an assumption about.
You made an assumption, yes.
I made an assumption. I was listening.
How do we feel about the format?
I liked it. The only thing I think we maybe change is
Are we not live anymore? Or
no, we're still live.
Yeah,
I think
have this conversation offline.
Yeah.
If we want to have bonus content outside of the podcast, that's fine. We can talk like business and formatting outside of.
All right, I'm gonna cut the stream then because we got 4 minutes left.
Yeah.
Kevin, do you want to do the line?
No, I don't want to do the line.